The Cincinnati Bengals are getting ready for Sunday night, and we finally have the injury report. And there's some great news, but then there is some bad news. And it's the Cincinnati Bengals. We can always expect some bad news. But first, let's start with the good news. Tee Higgins. He wasn't even on the report, and he was limited in practice during this week. But today, on Friday, Tee Higgins was practicing, and Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, said that Tee is going to play this Sunday night against the Chargers. And that is huge, huge news for the Cincinnati Bengals, as Cincinnati is now 2-7 without Tee Higgins. Tee Higgins is a huge factor in the Cincinnati Bengals offense. We talked about it a few weeks ago, I don't remember what it was, but I compared the stats of Ja'Marr Chase with Tee on the field and without Tee on the field. And whenever Tee isn't on the field, Ja'Marr Chase doesn't play as well most of the time. Obviously, the second game against the Ravens, Ja'Marr played very well without Tee on the field, but it's a pattern that is being shown again and again that Ja'Marr Chase is playing better when Tee Higgins is on the field. So that is great news. I'm so excited to watch Tee play again. But then this is where some of the questionable news, let's say, starts to begin. First, Cincinnati Bengals left tackle Orlando Brown is still questionable with a knee injury this Sunday night. And during practice, he was without his helmet watching the offensive line during individual work. He did some walkthroughs. Zach Taylor said that we'll see. Once we get to game day, we'll see if Orlando Brown is going to play. If Orlando Brown doesn't play, that means Cody Ford will be the starting left tackle once again for the Bengals. And if Orlando Brown doesn't play, this will be his fourth consecutive game he has not started. And since Orlando Brown has gone out, we have seen the QB pressures start again. The D-line getting after Joe Burrow, which is the one thing Cincinnati fans do not want to see. We've seen Joe Burrow go down with too many injuries, and that's the last thing we want this season, especially with how close we're getting to being eliminated from the playoffs, how close the playoff run is for us. We're basically in a battle between the Colts and the Broncos for the last wild card spot. So keeping Joe Burrow healthy is one of the biggest concerns for Cincinnati right now. And how does that start? Making sure he's not getting hit every single play. And since Orlando Brown has gone down with his knee injury, Joe Burrow has been getting pressured more and more each week. And when Orlando Brown was on the field, Joe Burrow was getting pressured least in the NFL. So I'm hoping Orlando Brown plays. When Orlando Brown is out there, the offensive line is a completely different offensive line. It goes from some of the least pressures to some of the most pressure. So Orlando Brown is a huge key player that Cincinnati will greatly benefit from having this coming Sunday, but that's a wait and see kind of thing. Then next we have BJ Hill. He was also labeled questionable with a knee injury, but it is looking likely for him to play this Sunday. Cincinnati needs everybody basically to play because we want to be at full strength, trying to win, because we basically need to win the rest of the games. But BJ Hill being a defensive tackle, the defensive line for Cincinnati has struggled as this season in general. So losing BJ Hill would be a huge loss for Cincinnati, but BJ Hill playing would be a huge advantage for Cincinnati. So it's looking likely for him to play this Sunday, which is huge news for Cincinnati. Would be greatly, I was about to say greatly appreciated. Yes, I would love it. Please, BJ Hill plays. But it would be a great benefit for Cincinnati if BJ Hill was to play. The biggest concern outside of Orlando Brown being questionable is Trey Hendrickson. He has also been labeled questionable with a neck injury. And he's not flying to LA with the team. Hasn't been said why. It's been said that it's because of personal reasons that he's not flying with the team. But luckily, even though he was labeled as questionable, it is likely that Trey Hendrickson is going to be playing on Sunday night. And without Trey, that's a huge loss for Cincinnati. He leads the league in sacks, and he's basically the elite player on Cincinnati's defense. Without Trey Hendrickson, the defense goes from here to here. We need Trey, even a bigger difference probably. Like can't even see the level. But Trey Hendrickson is the key factor on Cincinnati's defense. We need Trey Hendrickson to play this game. We need Trey Hendrickson to play in this game. This is one of the most important games for Cincinnati to win. If we don't win, we go from 4-6 to 4-7. When that's literally, you have to win out. You have to win out. I'm okay with losing one game to the Steelers, because if you lose one game to the Steelers and win the rest of the games, you finish 10-7. But if you lose this game, that means you have to sweep the Browns, which you already beat them once, so you would have to beat them again. But then also sweep the Steelers, which is looking like one of the best teams in the AFC and also the entire NFL. So losing Trey Hendrickson this week would be devastating for Cincinnati. But luckily for Cincinnati, it is looking like he is going to play. Just to show the report, an update on Bengals DN Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson will not travel to Los Angeles with the Bengals today due to personal reasons. He is expected to travel to Los Angeles tomorrow and be available to play on Sunday. So it's looking likely he will play, but because of personal reasons, whatever that is, you don't want to speculate, obviously, about personal reasons. But if it is something, I will be praying for Trey Hendrickson, no matter what it is. But it's looking likely that he will be playing this Sunday, which is huge for Cincinnati. And then another guy, this is his first week on Cincinnati, actually. We don't know if we will see him this Sunday or not, but Isaiah Williams was signed to the Bengals off of the Lions waivers, and it's looking like he might play this Sunday, not as a wide receiver, but as a returner. During practice, he was seen warming up as a returner, punt returner, especially with Charlie Jones out with a groin injury. He is also labeled as questionable for this game, Charlie Jones, that is. So we might see Isaiah Williams step up to be that role for the punt returner, kick returner, because it's been the kick returns, the punt returns for Cincinnati has struggled since Charlie Jones has gone out. So that would be a huge key piece to fill for the Bengals. James Reapin, a beat reporter for Cincinnati, says, "Here's your first look at new Bengals wide receiver Isaiah Williams. There's no reason why he can't play out there on kick and punt returns right away with Charlie Jones dealing with the groin injury, like I said. He expects him to play Sunday night and at least on kick returns. I agree completely. We should see Isaiah Williams out there, even just on punt returns or kick returns, and eventually work him up into being a factor in the wide receiver game, which is just adding depth to the wide receiver room. Obviously, we have a great wide receiver core, but adding depth to that group is never something that is bad. But it's looking likely for him to play this Sunday, but not in the wide receiver role, but in the punt return and kick return role. And that's what he did for the Detroit Lions in the preseason. He was one of the standout players for the Lions this preseason, especially with his punt returns and kick returns, and he did show out as a wide receiver as well. So adding that talent into the wide receiver room is a huge gain for Cincinnati, but also it's a huge gain with him being able to replace Charlie Jones for a little bit in the punt return and the kicking return role until Charlie Jones come back. Then I would assume both of them would kind of take the same amount of reps in the punting and kicking return aspect. That's all the reports for this Friday, November 15th. Tomorrow, I will be breaking down the Bengals-Chargers game, what Cincinnati has to do to win in LA this Sunday night. Don't forget to like this video, comment on the video how you thought, what you're expecting from each of these players, whether they're going to play or they're not going to play. Remember to subscribe to Bengals Digest to get all your Cincinnati Bengals needs, updates, and news. I'm Carson Lokey. I'll see you next time. Peace out.